To the Specifying Practice Group webinar. Our topic for today is collecting project data, discovering what works. Our thought leader is David Stutzman, CSI, CCS, AIA, SCIP, Lead AP. Dave is a registered architect and founding principal of the largest independent architectural and engineering specifications consulting firm in the United States. He has 35 years of experience in specifications, preliminary project descriptions, and quality assurance reviews. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. Your participation during today's webinar is encouraged, and Dave has allowed time to take questions throughout the presentation. Although attendee lines are currently muted, you may click the Raise Hand button to indicate that you have a question or comment. We will identify you by name and unmute your line, at which point you may begin speaking. If you are participating via streaming audio and do not have a computer microphone, you may also type your question into the chat box. Over to you, Dave.
Thank you, Erica. Welcome, everyone, to our monthly practice group session. Glad that you're able to join us, especially considering that we're coming up on a holiday weekend. And I sure hope everybody's holiday weekend is going to be as gorgeous as it is going to be here in New Jersey. We'll be looking for the throngs of tourists invading us here shortly, probably beginning this evening. I just had to put this photo up on the screen to begin today's meeting. I wanted to let you know this is the entry door to one of our clients, which you can see sort of in the background at the front of the reflected car door, or car in the background. This is about a 8-foot wide city sidewalk in Philadelphia, and I love this entrance to this building only because this sidewalk vault door is always open, and the only protection to this is the orange cone. And just to give you an idea, OSHA would probably have a great time with this if they realized that this thing was open every hour that this business is open. And there's the first step down into the sidewalk vault. Not particularly a safe environment. But you know, I try to occasionally collect these photos of different interesting things, and hopefully I can share some of them with you as we go through some of these sessions. So today we're going to be talking about how to collect project data and what might work, what doesn't work, what may work with some folks, and what is working generally for everyone. I've collected a couple of samples of our own that I'll be sharing with you today, and I volunteered several of our group members. I know Louis Metcalf, you're on the line today, but I see that looks like you haven't logged in by telephone. You might be on computer without your microphone. If you are, I would like you to get in by telephone, because I'd like you to be able to talk about the document that you submitted and how you're using that in your office. I have Patricia Gallup joining us also, and she has told me that she'd be happy to discuss the sample that she provided. And I have Bob Bailey from Pittsburgh who sent in a sample here late this afternoon. Bob, I hope you're out there and can join us later too. And the last one is Ray Gaines. All of these folks I graciously volunteered, and fortunately for me, they all accepted. So I'm glad to have them on today, and hopefully that'll spur some of our discussion. So with that, what I'd like to do is go to our first document. And Louis, are you available at this point? Erica, maybe you can unmute him if he's on a mic.
Yes. Louis, are you there?
Louis? Okay, maybe not.
I think he was on. He's on a dial-in in just a minute.
Okay. Well, we can wait just a bit for Louis to come on. What I've got is, in the examples I'm going to show today, is a variety of different kinds of documents, both in Word and in Excel formats. So hopefully one of these, if you see them that might excite you for your own purposes, we can certainly ask the group, the people that submitted them, if they're willing to share. If they're my documents, I would certainly be willing to share them with you, and as I go through, I'll let you know who owns which document so that we can try to coordinate each of these if there are any requests for sharing. Louis, are you there yet? No. Okay. We'll have to watch for Louis coming on. Let me move to the next document in the meantime, and we'll come back to Louis in a minute. This is actually a table of contents that our office uses. When we first start a project, one of the very first things that we do, even as we're writing proposals, is to prepare what we believe may be a table of contents for the project. We have a complete listing, and what you're seeing here, especially with these black dots over in the first column, we're using this as an auto filter feature in Excel so that we're only showing those items that actually apply to this project, which is a slick feature I find for creating a table of contents very quickly, because if we open this up, you can see that really there's a whole lot more information that's actually hidden, so that we can maintain a master. We can introduce specification sections into the table of contents quickly just by going down this right-hand column and, in our case, simply typing in an N, which turns into a big black dot, and then filter this, everything that is not blank. One of the things that we find particularly useful is to be able to identify the author for each of the sections. We often end up with many consultants involved in a project. We may have as many as 20 consultants in some of the larger projects, and once we get to construction, oftentimes folks forget who actually wrote what, and it makes things very confusing. But for the architect to know who even to call to talk about a specific spec section. So we try to track this right from the beginning. This last column, the description of what we actually try to include in the project. Division 1 or Division 0 here is not terribly descriptive, but if I scroll down, let's go look at Division 7, where we can start to see specifically what might be in the section. And these are often taken from our first impression of what might even be a concept drawing as opposed to schematic design or design development, because we get involved in projects at all different levels during the development. So we're trying to provide detail information in the description that matches the level of drawings that we see. But what we end up doing is taking this table of contents, sharing it in Excel form with our clients, so that in the case of here staying in Division 7, our clients are actually coming back and adding their own responses. Here in this case, we started with our basic description of what we believed to be in the project. We followed it with a separate description of what we found in the basis of design that the architect prepared once that was completed. And in this particular case, the architect had provided samples of a similar project, so we were making comparisons between the basis of design, what was shown in the similar project, and we're almost regurgitating that information here, plus we're asking for some clarifications where we found some discrepancies. The benefit of all of this is we keep adding columns, and now that we have some basic information here, we actually have responses coming back from our clients. So in this case, we actually have 2 clients that are acting as a joint venture, so each one of them has offered their own response. Now, we find that this tends to work for some clients, but not all. And it's a give and take scenario as we go through collecting the data, because most of the time the detail information is still not available as we start the specifications, but this becomes a checkpoint for us to go back and look to see whether or not we've actually included everything that we know about at the time. I had mentioned that we use these
on.
Excuse me, Erica?
I'm sorry, Dave. I just wanted you to know that Lewis is now on.
Oh, okay. Good, good. Thanks. Welcome, Lewis. Let me get back to you in a minute.
Sure. Take your time.
If I can. That's great. Thanks. The nice thing that we find by including this author column then in the auto filter, that we can immediately go down into and show, in the case of our work, only those sections that we're actually responsible for, and now we have a better way of tracking the progress of the project as we go through. Okay, one example. All right, Lewis, I'm going to back up to your document, and I know I'm on the second page, and I'll act as your, if you want to do the film strip beep, I will certainly be happy to scroll through to the next page for you.
Okay. Well, of course, this is just a little introduction to try to explain the purpose of the document. There are lots and lots of checklists for what the document should look like in terms of deliverables for the different phases. But what we were trying to achieve was to try to figure out what decisions needed to be made in each phase so that we could plan for them and do them at the right time. And the theory, well, not the theory, but the reality is that if you put off a decision that could be made, for example, in design development phase to CDs, because of the ripple effect and the many details and other things that are involved, you may have a multiplier of as much as 10. In other words, if you could solve a problem in an afternoon in DDs, it might take you 40 hours to solve that problem once you get into CDs. A classic case was we had a project at my previous employer where we had a glass box that was going to be curtain wall on the top of a building, and it had the walls sloped out, and it was not on the orthogonal grid. And everybody, you know, it was a really nifty design feature. And they kept putting off talking to a CD guy, a curtain wall guy, until about a third of the way through construction documents. And when I finally talked him into getting somebody to come in, the guy said, oh, you can't do it like that, and here's what you need to change. Well, the number of changes that they had to be made, the mechanical guys had to relocate the baseboard heaters, the structural guys had to change some beams and columns, the electrical engineer had to move some lights, so the ripple effect was enormous, and it was very costly. So that's what this is about. And if you would go to the next
I'd be happy to. Sure.
Okay. What I've done here is this is a matrix, and I did it specifically in a matrix because that way you can kind of compare across for the different phases of what needs to happen in each one of the categories. And so we go down the left there, and we talk about the cost management, the consultants, what is the project delivery method, and how does that affect the work of each of those phases. And if you go to the next one, please, David.
Mm-hmm. I didn't hear the beep.
Ooga. And so here we get into a little bit more meat. What are the things that need to be looked at and with respect to the building code? You know, we're looking at a checklist, but what are the basic decisions that need to be made? You can see under schematic design that we're looking at least our thinking in our firm was that the exiting scheme needed to be shown on the drawings at that stage, not wait until design development. And then in design development, you go ahead and have the last item there, the life safety plans that are, essentially fully developed. Let's have another beep.
Okay.
Ooga.
A little too far.
Yeah, that's fine. And talks about discussions that you might have with the AHJs, some accessibility issues. Let's go on to the next one. Let's get down to the actual construction decisions. There we go. Construction information, so that what we're trying to do is make sure that all of the information that is needed for various purposes at the end of schematics and at the end of DDs is there, that there's enough information there for accurate costing. At the top of the design development column, it states that there's a goal, all product decisions that affect cost. I have to say that this is an idea that I came up with that predates the IPD concept, which states the same thing, is that at the end of the, I forget the name of the phase right now, that corresponds to design development, all the product decisions, all the major decisions in the project should be done at that time. That's when you get a GMP. And so even if we don't establish a GMP at this point, our thinking at this firm was that the end of DDs, there should be enough information to hard bid the project. Maybe not enough to build it, but enough to hard bid it. And let's go to the next page, David.
Mm-hmm.
And here we get down to drawings and schedules, written documents, and quality review, and again, to compare some of the differences between the two. You notice under schematic design we have representative wall sections developed to verify constructability and energy code compliance. My present firm is been employed to do a peer review on a major new hospital project in another part of the country. And it's a huge project. It's like a $600 million job, 400-bed hospital. And part of that project is the campus. There's a building that's the centralized energy plant, and has the offices for the maintenance and shops and things like that. And that was kind of the piece that I was looking at primarily. And there was absolutely no information about how that building was going to meet the energy code. There were no notes regarding indicating any level of insulation, the solar heat gain coefficient, or other information for the glazing. Absolutely nothing. So that means that that designer is going to have to do all of that work in design development when they should be working on other things. But it may turn out that once they do make the decisions, they may have to go back to their original scheme, the basic design of the building, and do some redesigning to make it meet the energy code requirements. So anyway, let's see. Why don't we go to the last page, David?
Sure. Is that it? There we go.
Yeah, and then just a reminder down there that we want written approval and authorizations to proceed to the design development phase from the owner, so that we have a reasonable assurance that we're going to get paid for the work that we've done to date. Anyway, that's kind of a brief introduction to this outline document. The next thing I think I'd like to do with it is to take the decisions within each phase and try to come up with a flow chart or a critical path of if there are, to show if there are any dependencies, so that we can actually work out the next level to develop a sequence of decisions that need to be made. and use this as, and we do use this as a planning tool, and it's been working very good for us by helping us focus on what's important now. So back to you, David.
Oh, thank you very much, Louis. I appreciate your help in presenting your document. I think it's a really great tool. It reminds me a lot of one architect that I've worked with, and I'll just relay a short story. The architect's name's Otto DaCosta, and there are very few architects that I actually work with that when I call them on the phone that I get an answer from them 100% of the time. When I call Otto, I pose the question. You can tell that he's pausing just a moment to think about it, and before we're off the phone, I have an answer. And this went on for several years. I had never met Otto. Actually, we had worked long distance. And one time I got up enough nerve to ask him how he was able to do this. Well, I got his entire life story, which took about 2 hours, but it was an interesting insight in that he explained to me that in his prior life, he was a catcher for the New York Mets, and that he had to know what he was going to do with the ball before he even got it. And he's treating architecture pretty much the same way, where he knows where he needs to be. He's going to make the best decision that he can at the time with the information he has in hand and move on. The decision does not get reevaluated later because there's too many other decisions that actually have to be dealt with later. And again, he's making best decision at the time with the information available. And his projects generally ran very smoothly because everybody knew that's what the operation was going to be.
That's an important principle: is make good decisions early and then stick with them. Don't try to second guess yourself. And of course, where possible, that means where a contractor or CM is involved in the project early, the collaboration with them can mean that the value analysis can be done on the fly, and you don't wind up documenting around a product that the contractor later decides is too expensive to use in the project.
Right.
All of the trends in our industry right now, whether it's BIM or integrated project delivery or lean architecture, are all pushing the same way, and that is making better decisions earlier in the game and not putting things off, not procrastinating decisions simply because we don't want to do the homework at the right time, or we don't want to take the time to do it. Focusing on that, and that's what this planning tool was intended to try to encourage, is making decisions at the right time when you have the greatest opportunity to respond to those decisions and implement them at the lowest cost.
Okay, good. Erica, I'm going to ask you if you could unmute Patricia. I know that she's out there, Patricia Gallup, and it looks like she's on the phone, so maybe that'll be an easier unmute.
Sure. Steve would like to know if Louis is willing to share his document.
Yes, I do need to resend. I'll send a new version to David that takes off our company's indicia. It was developed at a previous firm, and there's some other stuff in it that some hidden text that I need to remove and clean up a little bit. But yes, I don't mind sharing that because it's not direct work product of my present employer.
Okay.
Dave, this is Joy.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi, this is Joy. I'm sorry to break in. If you'll make these forms available to me after the meeting today, I'll be able to post them to our location on CSINet for download.
Okay. Patricia, are you on with us?
I don't know. Am I?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today and being a willing participant, even though I volunteered you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have your document that you shared with me up on the screen, and I will go to wherever you like in the document if you can help direct me.
Okay.
This will be the team effort.
Yeah. Well, basically, this is what I give to our project coordinators to fill out, so that I can see better what's in the spec, what needs to be in the spec. The first page here is just a table of contents, give them an idea of what's within the document.
Okay.
And then I've gone through the administrative. I just kind of went in order of our specs. Administrative front end, trying to figure out who the players are, and it's just a checklist. And then I left them places to fill in if there's something that they know that I didn't have on here. I've always told them this is a moving document, because things always change, and to always write in the margins or give information that if you don't see where to check it off. But it also gives them a something to, if there's something there that, oh, I haven't looked into that. It gives them a tickler to go ask that question. These are things you should know.
Patricia, this is an Excel file that I'm showing,
Yeah.
in case people haven't figured that one out.
Yeah.
Are these check boxes and things, are you distributing normally the Excel file, or are you asking them to?
Well, typically it's a hard copy I give to them,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm working on doing it electronically. But the boxes aren't maneuverable, so you'd have to go through quite an ordeal to put an X in that box.
Right. But there might be other ways to do it. I still love my big black dots because they're hard to miss.
Yeah. Now I've been in my copious free time trying to get it electronic, but it's a slow process, and I don't have a whole lot of extra time to work on it.
Okay.
So
I want to scroll down, if we can, maybe into one of the technical sections, just to give everybody a flavor for the kinds of things that you've included.
Yeah, typically I try and put the typical stuff that we have in a project, and then got some options there that may not be so atypical, just to get their mind thinking about it. Because a lot of times they say, yeah, I want brick, but they don't think any farther than that.
A common occurrence.
Yeah.
What's been your success rate in trying to use this kind of a checklist approach? Is this working well,
It's hit and miss. Some people are very receptive to it and can't wait to get started on it. Others would rather avoid it like the plague, because it is quite long, and it's quite tedious to go through and figure out. Because I kind of find that it makes them think, and they don't want to do that early in the project.
Okay. And when would you normally distribute this then?
Typically, I try and get this to them in the DD phase, so that by the time CDs start, that I get it back. But with the rate of projects going through the office, I've been lucky to get it that early to them. So a lot of times it's in the beginning of the CD phase, and if I get it several weeks before the project just to leave the office, I'm doing good.
Okay. Are you using any other kind of document then for the earlier stages, like a basis of design?
I have a table of contents similar to what you have, except not as sophisticated, and they can go through there and just pick out the sections. It has a short description of each section that we've used in earlier phases.
Okay.
It hasn't worked all that well, but
okay, but you've had some level of success with this checklist, though, and it seems like it's deep enough with the information that would get you a pretty good start in each section.
Oh yeah, it does a pretty good job.
Okay, well, good. Thanks so much for sharing with us today. I appreciate that. All right, let me move on to another checklist that that we've been using, and I need to explain this one a bit. It is a type of a checklist. This one is in Word, and we actually are using this document in a as a protected document. So we're able to use Word's checkboxes, and this would probably get to Patricia's method of trying to allow people to do some more quick editing of the checklist by simply clicking on the checkbox to select it. But we've introduced a couple of other things, and this checklist was geared to a national client, or a client that does work nationally, that the projects are similar. It was a health club client, and so each club is very, very similar to the next, except that there are always regional differences, and the client had identified very specific options that were available, sometimes because of the level of the club that they were building, and sometimes because of the region of the country that they were building in. So to go down and look at the same things that we had shown for Patricia, here's Division 4 Masonry. You can see it's not nearly as detailed as Patricia's, but then that's because this client has limited what the architects are able to actually choose. It was an unusual condition for us, and we were really thankful that we had this checklist because, believe it or not, we were actually writing specifications, oftentimes never having seen drawings for the project or having seen only a floor plan. So knowing that it was a standard, based off of a standard prototype, that we could rely on the architects filling out this checklist, and there was a bit of a club so that this checklist did work well for us, because the owner absolutely insisted that we did not start any spec until we had this checklist. And it had to be completed by the architect that was in charge of the project, because this really was the basis for developing the final construction spec. So the way this is working for us, again, these are all live checkboxes, so we can go in and actually select each one of these, and I'm just doing some random selections here, but if we do, we could do, just type in additional information. Okay, pick some other things, brick, and here for the backup there were some categories where we had preset selections that was always the client's standard. Okay, now once the architect filled this all out, we had one more tool that we used, and it was just a macro that went through and read all of these checkboxes, all of the fill in the blanks, to see what it was that the architect actually changed. And the result of the of running the macro, and I'll show you that here in a minute, as soon as, let me get this to the, and realize I'm not showing you the exact same selections. Oops, wrong document. There we go. So that every selection that the architect made that was a change to the default was marked in red. Made it really easy for us to find everything that the architect inserted into the checklist. And it became, in essence, our permanent record of the architect's selections, so that once we got into the final CD or into construction, and the question about, well, why wasn't this included, or why was this included, this became a great record and seemed to work very well for this particular client. And was the greatest difficulty that we had developing this checklist was actually trying to narrow it down because I think, like Patty showed, that we were used to, as specifiers, having many more selections in any one particular section than are shown here, and trying to get it down to exactly what this health club client wanted was a lesson in restraint for us. Okay, and the beauty in all of this is the macro that we ran to find all of the architect selections is something that takes seconds to complete on a document. In this case, is probably 40 pages long. Okay. I want to show one other different kind of a project checklist, and then Ray Gaines, if I believe you're out there, and Eric, if you can find Ray and unmute him, he's got a little bit of a different perspective about, because he's also working as an architect and a specifier both, so I'd like to get his comments for the group to hear. This is another Excel spreadsheet, and our client in this case actually refers to this spreadsheet as his outline spec. Now, we developed this for them, or taking some raw information from the client and developed this into something that I believe turned out to be a little bit more usable and user-friendly than where our client started with this document. They were using it as just simply an Excel list and going through and editing as it needed for each particular project. They would give this Excel list to their project architect, and it was up to the project architect then to go through and edit and then turn it over to the specifier. At one point, their in-house specifier, and he was using this to develop all of the specifications, really basing it entirely on the product selections made here plus the progress drawings. So what we've done for them is using Excel, Microsoft Excel in the version 2007. This is created with collapsible outlining type features. You can see by these bars over here on the left and these tabs up at the top that we have everything expanded, showing all the information. And we can collapse this to show only items at a level 2, which would be the section titles and division titles. We can collapse it to show just division titles. That can make the editing, I think, more speedy for them, because they could go through and select just selection titles to begin with, and then come back and fill in the information about that would be required for each section. And if I'm going to try to scroll down here too to show something right here for masonry, you can see we get into a little bit more detail, and this is all information right from our client and how they're used to working with their own standard specifications. So what we've done is set up and say these are all drop-down menu items here, so that they can say, yes, we've got unit masonry. In this case, we'll say, go down here and say glazed brick or glazed block. No, we don't have that. Fire brick, well, maybe, we're not sure yet. And they can go in and set each one of these items, and then again using Excel's auto filter function, we can go back and show everything in this case except those that say no, or except those that are blank. And we can also collapse this down to any one of the outline levels so that we can show less information and I'll try to do this. Oh, it was very kind to me today. Sometimes on this particular machine, that takes a little bit of effort to go collapse that. I'm actually showing you the file in Excel 2003, although it was created in 2007. You can still work with it in 2003 with the patch that Microsoft offers to be able to open the 2007 files. And it actually works pretty well to be able to show what may or may not be included in a project. So we'll open that back up again. And we did this, the little bit of formatting here that we did to show the selections in color just corresponding to a traffic light, which is pretty recognizable, is really pretty simple. It's just a conditional formatting to automatically turn the text a particular color. And no particular reason to do that other than visual appearance, and hopefully it'll help the architects be able to know instantly by color what may or may not be included in the section. All right. Erica, did you find Ray?
I did not. I don't believe he's on.
Oh, dear. And he promised he would be here. Okay. We'll have a definite discussion with Ray after the meeting. Okay. We'll volunteer him for something else in the future. All right. I will skip Ray's information then, only because I am not going to be the right person to explain that one. What I would like to do is, we have about 15 minutes left in today's session, and there's one element that I was going to show that comes from, or two elements, I guess, that comes from Mark Kalin's website. And Mark had done a spec checklist. See if I can bring that up. Similar concept, different, a little bit of a different kind of an approach. This one, again, done in Microsoft Word. This one is really set up to be dealt with as a paper copy, where someone will actually try to use these the circle type symbols that he's put in here as a place to check mark what may or may not be included. Now, some of his, as you can see, are really limited only to a section title, and perhaps I don't know Mark's spec sections exactly or at all, but this is maybe as sufficient for him just to say that the section is in or it is not, and he may at that point take it and edit the section to suit based upon the project drawings. But again, his section choices that he's showing are relatively limited, much as I was showing you with our client that's using the Excel spreadsheet. So it's not nearly as extensive as Patricia's as far as section choices that may be available. The one document that Mark has been working on goes to the specifier's property sets, and we've discussed that in general before, but I wanted to show you what the entire list might look like. Now, what Mark has done is there are two different groups of information in this document. The first group has, and you can see by the division titles, if we go to Division 4, so we're somewhat consistent today, that he's identifying, in this case, clay unit masonry with a uniformat element that is exterior wall, B2010. And he's trying to identify each one of these items with its uniformat designation as to where that particular product or spec section would appear in a uniformat classification. He goes on after this initial listing with uniformat to go into the typical kinds of specifications listing, where we have a list, in this case, of unit masonry. Let me just scroll down here a little bit. So you can see each one of the items that he has listed in this specifiers property set starts out with a heading and then follows by what is believed to be the particular property that's associated with that specification. So here we have the application is brick veneer on sheathing wood studs, and you can see we have a variety of different kinds of applications, but similar construction that all involve brick veneer. And this is all going back to the uniformat description, the B2010. But these listings that Mark has developed for the specifiers property sets are actually a pretty good list of what a specifier may need to know to be able to actually specify the product. It may be something that would be worthwhile if you're trying to generate your own checklist for use in your office that would be a suitable starting point for things to consider for a particular section. So I wanted to share that with you to let you know that it's out there, it's available, and it's also available on the NIBS Whole Building Design Guide website, where it's actually sort of a searchable feature by spec section. So if you're only interested in a small amount, you don't have to download the entire thing. And I don't know if you can see, but this particular document is 241 pages long, so it's not something that you actually want to sit in front of a project architect and say, okay, here's your checklist, because you'll never get it back. So we now have probably about 10 minutes left in the hour. And Erica, I didn't hear anything from you about questions from anybody that's online. So have we had any questions? Okay, go ahead.
I have a question from Shane. What kind of manipulation of Excel is required to develop documents like these you've been showing? Program code base changes or strictly out of the box?
Shane, they're all out of the box functions. Every one of them that I've shown you. And they're not difficult to do. Let me see if I can go back to find the right one. This one I would not be able to show you how we're doing this outline because I'm showing it to you in Excel 2003. But there is under the 2007, there is a feature that all you have to do is essentially select the rows and tell it that you want to create that as an outline, and it automatically does it. These drop-down menus are simple to create as a formatting item, and that's all right out of the box. The auto filters is a setting that you use right from the tools, from the data, where you select the data that you want to be formatted by the auto filters, and you just come over here and say auto filter, and it automatically sets it up for you. So it creates these drop-down buttons for you. It shows you the options that are available, and you can do custom. So you can do multiple selections, and actually in Excel 2007, it's even easier because each one of those selections becomes a checkbox. You either check it on or off, and you can customize what you're showing. So it's really a powerful feature, and of all of the Microsoft products, I will tell you Excel is my absolute favorite because of the power that it brings to spreadsheets. And there's virtually no programming needed. It's all just right out of the box stuff.
Dave?
Yes?
Joe Antronella would like to know about the checkboxes in MS Word.
Yes. Okay, let me find that one. Okay, and did he have anything in particular about what his question is?
No, I would assume he wants to know if they work similarly.
Yeah.
What about the checkboxes?
Okay, these checkboxes, again, these are all out-of-the-box things in Microsoft. There's a toolbar, and it's appropriately labeled Forms. So you may not recognize this as something that you would actually use to create checkboxes, but what it's really talking about is creating forms. This last button on here actually protects the form so that the only entry that can be made is in the fields that you create in the form. So you just start with any Excel or any Word document. It doesn't really matter. I'll turn off this protect feature. And to add a checkbox, you just come over here to the toolbar, click Add the Checkbox. You know, if you want to add a fill in the blank, you just use this feature, and then the drop-down menu is here. Create your own drop-down menu, and it comes up blank, and then you end up having to, by double-clicking on it, you can actually fill in the items that you want to have in the drop-down. And you can add as many or as few as you like. Okay, and then when you're all done, you end up and go back and protect the document again. Now you have a drop-down. So these form fields that you're adding in only work once the document is protected, and the protection is you can do this as a password protection. We've never done that. We're likely to forget the password. So we just know that we turn the protection on, and then you can use that to fill in the form.
I have another question from Mark Schmidt.
Yes.
Most of the checklists that you have shown are using the old master format 5-digit numbering. How much are you using 5 digits versus the 2004 master format?
Oh, you caught me. Nobody was supposed to notice. But I'll go back to our table of contents, and you notice we have master format 95 and 2004. We have made the change. All of our master sections are written using 2004. All of our work, all of our masters are based off of spec text, and spec text allows both master format 04 and 95 to exist in the same section, and with like choosing English and metric units measure, we do the same thing with master format 95 and 04. We still have a good number of clients that absolutely insist that it be written in 95. I would say our breakdown is probably it's shrinking, but it's probably still about 40% is written in master format 95. The ones that we're finding are demanding that are the low-income HUD housing, because HUD is all geared to 95. All their reporting forms are 95. So the contractors have to be able to report against the 95 section numbers and titles, so trying to provide 04 specifications is just not going to work well for them. We also have major universities, and I'm not going to name names, but that absolutely insist on master format 95. And I have yet to get a reason that those universities are insisting on it. The only thing that I can think is that they have existing database information that's all written around or all cataloged against master format 95, and they want to be able to integrate all of their new work in the existing database rather than changing the database over. So our breakdown, about 40-60, I would say today. It has been shrinking, the percentage of master format 95, but it's still pretty significant. Anything else, Erica?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay, do I have a volunteer to present next month? I think it's Ray Gaines, isn't it? Is there, I would ask the group if there's any hot topic that you have that we ought to be talking about that we haven't yet. Feel free to chime in because I'm certainly open for suggestions, and I will not necessarily volunteer you to do the presentation if you come up with the ideas, but I'll certainly ask if you're a willing participant. Any suggestions?
Not at this time.
Ah, okay, they're all being bashful. They're thinking about barbecues. Okay, well, we're close to the hour, and I think I've said just about enough for today, and if there aren't any questions, then I think we can sign off.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending. Our next meeting is August, first Thursday in August, August 5th at 3 p.m. You'll be receiving a notice shortly.
Okay, thank you for joining us, and hope you all have a great holiday weekend.
Thank you, Dave. Bye-bye, everyone.